Okay, so I just stop that. Okay, yeah, so we've basically done completed the simple log API with several endpoints. Basically, endpoints are basically the way to access the resources you have in your backend. Okay, the ways to see the users, the ways to see the posts, the way to see whatever request you have in the endpoint, you have to provide an endpoint. So it's the endpoint that a front-end developer will use to access what you have on the back end. Okay, this is very, very important. It just, for instance, now when you go to a restaurant, right? So in the restaurant, there you have the cook, the people that make the food, chefs, and the you have the waitress. Okay, so the waitress or waiter will have to go to a path to the kitchen or to where to get the food after the food has been prepared. Okay, so the food are prepared, and then the waitress will not come to pick the food. The food is going to remain there. Okay, so how do you know how to once the food is prepared, like what path do you follow? You go to the kitchen door. What door do you follow to get the food? Okay, all right. So that's similar to what we're doing. What similar to what endpoints does. An API now is now the basically the waitress now basically the one that it is like they are more like the uh a combination of the API and the endpoint where they interact with the customers and then the kitchen. Okay, but they know the way to the kitchen. So in the case, the front end now, you need to provide once you provide the APIs, the endpoints. All right, so you can type endpoints. So you can say API endpoints to have a better idea of what it is. So a point in which an application programming interface. So it's a point at which an application programming, the code that enables two software programs to communicate with each other. Okay, so basically this back end program is a code, then the front end is a code. So these are two different programs, but they have to communicate. Okay, how do they have to communicate? You need to provide some endpoints, which are those things that we're saying here. So if you provide these endpoints, you can get access to the users. Okay, you can see this user is not an admin, so you cannot see all the users. So if I try to get the users list, you can't see all the users. It's just for you, just for instance, you say you want to see all the users that are registered on Facebook, you can't see them. Okay, you can only see your friends, the users that are friend list. Okay, you cannot uh, open a page that lists everybody on Facebook. Okay, but if you're an admin, you can see everybody that registered on Facebook. But let's look at it this way. So as I'm going to log in again, but I'm going to log in. This is an admin page, so I log in, and immediately I see all the users because this guy is an admin. This. So we did that permission thing, and we said the. So I think I need to stop this again for now, and then just open the VS Code. So if we open the VS Code, we'll see that in the views we have said that the view set we have added is admin. So is it for remember this represents the list and the detail. So the user list and the user detail. Okay, so if we put admin here, it means that only admin can see all the users. Okay, only admin can see all the users, admin permission classes. Okay, but we're going to, I mean, if you work on the project, we're going to bring down, you're going to learn again. Okay, so it's going to be like a repetition, but you're going to learn as you implement a feature. So if you choose a feature you want to implement, all you just need to do is to ask as many questions as possible. Okay, ask questions as we implement because everyone is on. We're all learning on the job, right? We're all learning on it as we're doing it. So you just need to ask questions on how to do something, especially. But yeah, once you show interest that you want to implement something, okay, where to start from, and then it would show you how to do it. And by the time you do it a couple of times, you'll be able to do it all by yourself, and you get the basic idea. But it's just to give you an intro to just have an idea of what we're trying to do. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So we have all of that. So next, so most of the time, people who use this, for instance, now if you build this now, you're not necessarily going to be the person that will use it. So you build an API, other people are going to use the API for instance, the front end or maybe some back end developers also may need your API. So to ensure that they use it the way you intended it to be used, you need to write a documentation. Okay. So this is this is a usual process, a typical process for. Okay, while we are testing here, so another thing I want to also mention here is that although we're using this to test the API, okay, we're using this is the Django REST framework that comes with this. But most of the time, where you have some popular, let me just see if I have it here. Okay, I have Postman here. Hopefully this is it. So there's some tools for testing APIs. One is Postman. So if you are working on the back end, you must have it downloaded or maybe using the browser. Postman API testing. So if I do that, API tools for testing API. So it's this thing that you have to download. Okay, so let me see if I continue. It looks like I already have it, of course, and I have it in the other laptop, but let me just see here. You also need Insomnia. Another one's called Insomnia. So yeah. Okay, not the disease, but this one is API testing. So so I'm just gonna go to Insomnia. Because for example, if you're working on a JavaScript backend, right? So you can't use this Node.js. In fact, even if you're working on Flask, okay, you can't use this default one that comes with Django REST framework. You have to use one of these. So you need to download Insomnia REST. Okay, download from Windows. So since I'm using Windows here, I can just download it. Okay, and just download and install. So here you can just test. So it gives you, it's actually kind of better than this because, it works for different languages and all of that. I'll just say too, once it's downloaded, I will show you guys how it works. But it's something you say must have. So here, I think I already have Postman here, which is another one. Postman used to be very, very popular. It's still very, very popular, but it seems that it's now working just in the browser. Okay, so this Postman. Look at what I've built in the past. These are things, projects I've worked on in the past. So instead of testing it here, I can just copy this and test it on Postman. So for that, I am going to let me just say create a new collection. So new request, I'm just going to put it here. So if I put new request here and I click send, no, I got no results. Okay. So error, connection refused. Okay, so it looks like the server is not. Okay, yeah, I see. Server is not running. So as long as server is running, I click on this. And you see, I say authentication were not provided. Okay. Authentication were not provided. Yeah, but I don't think we want to go into this for now. But just to show you that this is we use it for different languages, but there's a way to provide authentication. So to provide authentication, you need to provide. So let's see if we can. Let me also try user number one. Because authentication not provided. So we'll need to use admin token. But for now, we're not going to go deeper into that one. Let's just look at today's thing we want to do. we want to look at. But I'm just trying to say that this thing we're using here, this thing that comes, it comes by default with Django, right? There are other ones that are even more popular that work for all different programming. Like this one, this is Postman, and the other one is just see if it's downloaded already. Insomnia is also another one. So let's see. Okay, so just Insomnia. So download Insomnia or Postman. But looks like I'm seeing that the Postman now is just giving me working on the browser. Or is it also download? Oh, okay, it's okay. The app is actually what you're dealing with. Let's see. Okay, Insomnia. Go to login. I believe I already have the account. So if I can't remember the paraphrase. Yeah, so these are tools that are used by, you should be familiar with them by front end. But later on, we're going to, continue to look at them. Launch. Okay, so it looks like I already have. Okay, so this is my Insomnia downloaded. Okay. So it's just kind of similar. So you can create a request. So I just create request collection. Okay. Okay, let's just create a request collection and see. API. So block API, then I can create a HTTP request. Just put the request here. And then of course you're still going to tell me that the authentication. So see the user creation. I do not provide an admin user authentication. Okay. And okay, so let's just look at it, leave it there. But in fact, let's not be distracted. But I'm just trying to show you that you have Insomnia and you have Postman. Those are two key tools that you can use to test APIs as you implement them, because you don't have a front end, you don't usually have this back end, or you don't usually have the Django admin page. Of course, when you're working with other languages, so you don't have that. So you have to definitely have to use Postman or Insomnia. Okay, so let's get to today's on, which is basically writing a documentation. So once you're done with your API, so the next thing is to write documentation. This is very, very important, okay? Because you need to describe to people how the API works, okay? And we already have our endpoints. So the first thing we're going to do for that is to install what they call Spectacular in Django. Okay, so let me just go back here. Just one moment. Let's see. Okay, so just move on to the what's it called, to the API. Okay, I mean, all these things may not be apparently clear now, but at least it's to also give you a general idea of how the processes, okay, of how things are done. Because we already have the endpoints, and where are the endpoints? Our endpoints are basically all these things we have here. Well, we have used a simple router to generate the endpoint for us, for the user and the post. We don't have to do anything. So that's the beauty of this. So the endpoints in the process settings are these ones. So you can see these are the endpoints. That is, how do you get to the resources? How do you get to the post? How do you get to the users? You need to pass through these endpoints. Okay. So let's just move on to the next, which is the documentation. So for documentation, the first thing we need to do is to install Spectacular. Okay. Django REST framework Spectacular. Let's just go to the browser and see what that is. So I'll say Django REST framework Spectacular. Okay. So what is it? Okay, so documentation is an integral part of API development, you can see. Okay. So it doesn't matter the language you're working on. So it's an integral part of API development. And OpenAI Trade is finally here to make process easier by using Django Spectacular with Django REST framework, your schema, and therefore your documentation and client will always stay close to your API. Okay, so just make a description of, it helps you to describe your API. Like people will look at your API and know what it does. Okay, so we're just going to install it quickly. So let's say how we can install it. Okay, so just pip install Spectacular. So go here and type in, make sure you're in the virtual environment. See, I say pip install Django REST framework dash Spectacular. Okay, so just press enter. So I'm going to see how this Spectacular works. Okay, so Spectacular will help us to create a schema. So a schema is just basically a machine readable document that outlines all available API endpoints. So it's just a document that, but mostly machine readable. Okay, so we have the schema, we have the documentation. The schema is read by machine, then documentation, humans are able to read the documentation, but they are all together. Okay, so once we have done this, the next thing we do is to add Django REST framework to, sorry, the Spectacular. So you see, we have installed another Django stuff. The next thing is to add it, install apps. You see, you can see that all the processes are basically just the same, right? Similar. Once you just get it, you see that it will be easier for you to do a lot of stuff. So you do that and you go back to the settings, install app, which is this one. We have installed a couple of things here. So since it's a third-party app, so I'm just installing that third party. I'll just put it here. Okay, Django. And after that, according to the documentation, again, you have to then include the REST framework. Yes. Okay, you have to include this guy here in the REST framework. So remember, we already had this, right, where we set up the permissions. So we're going to be setting up a lot of things there. So let's look for the Django. Yeah, so this one now. We have done some things. We have done default permission classes. We've done default authentication classes. Now we need to add default schema classes, which is the Django Spectacular from OpenAI. Okay, so this is just the process. You can see some of these things are not the things you even cram, but you just open the things you need. You just need to know the things you need, right? You see, it will give you direction on how to just use it. Okay, and that's why if you are programming a different language, I want to use another language, you can easily create code with that language without too much stress. Okay, so we're going to see add some of these things later, but for now, we need to do these Spectacular settings. Okay, this Spectacular settings, it just basically just to describe okay, so I'm just going to copy this for now, and I'll remove some of the things there. So I'll just go this particular settings. So I'm just going to go to here, just put it here. Okay, maybe I just put it on that. It doesn't matter, but I just, to be fair, in this case, there's really no special place to put it. So, but what I'm just going to do, I'm going to remove all of this and put my own description. Okay, so I'll just say title. Because this is dictionary. Remember dictionary in Python. Okay, so I put key and value. Blog API project. Okay, and then I'm going to also put a description. A simple blog use Django right framework. Okay, and then I can also add version 0.000.1. Okay, so you need to just add some settings, and then yeah, so that's just basically it. Next, we're going to see how all of this works, right? So let's just move to the next thing. So the next thing we're going to do is to add the URL. So how we're going to view the documentation, because the documentation will have to also come with, like what we're even seeing here. These things we are seeing here is a part of a kind of documentation. Okay, so this is what we're seeing here, part of the documentation. So we're building one for our own. So we're going to be able to access it on the web page. So what I'm going to do here is to go to our project URL. So, because if you look at what they did here, so you need to add in, you need to go to URL, import this guy here from grf spectacular.views, import spectacular view, and then you add it so that you can see the schema. Okay, so and then the documentation as well. So let's just do that, and then we'll see how that works. So go back here, and then first thing we do is to import. So I'll say from Django REST framework, not Django RF spectacular. Okay. .views, sorry, .views. I'm going to import spectacular API view. Okay. This is similar to the way we have been importing all these views that we created ourselves, right? So this one is the one that we're getting from this particular way installed. So I'll come here. So you can see, even if you are installing third-party app, you see the same process, similar process. Okay. So I'll just do API / schema. Okay, / and then I'll call this spectacular view.addView. And then I'll give it a name here. The name will be schema. Okay. So let's see how this works. So if we do API schema, so let's go back to our API and do API schema. So I'm just going to come here. No, not here. Let's just go here. API schema. Sorry. API schema. Okay, so this downloads the, okay, yes, I understand. So download the schema, let's just see. And then you see it has automatically generated a schema for us, but this is for machine readers. It may not be very, very clear how. So this describe how our components, our endpoint is, all right? But I mean, for humans, right? If we are reading it, it looks somehow, okay? Not very, very, but machines, computer understand what it is. Okay, so you can see it just describe, if you look at it, describe what we have done. You just look at our API and give us a description of what the API is about. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, let's see. So this is what just happened as I visited the API. So it said component schema post. It knows we have like a post. Then description, a unique identity value indicating this post. That is post ID. You can do a patch post. Post. If you want post destroy, you can delete a post, a unique integer. So, but this is not very, don't worry, well, because this is just the schema. We're going to actually add a documentation. Okay. So let's add a documentation now, but our the computer will understand it. You can see it gives you this all the APIs that we have, the endpoints. Okay, so let's just look at it. So you can see that we have the this is the endpoint that we use to get the schema. So let's look at other endpoints. Look at the endpoints to log in. You see the description. So this endpoint. Let me just, so this endpoint here. Look at the description. Check the credential and return the REST token if the credentials are valid or authenticated. We don't have to even write this ourselves. So see, it's already describing the endpoint. So that's for this one. Now let's look at another endpoint for logout. Okay. So you see, cause logout method and delete the token object assigned to the current user. Okay. Imagine if I have to write all this by hand. You know, this is description now we're writing. Now this is another one, another endpoint of our endpoint. It says call Django password reset safe method, accept the following post parameters, email, returns a successful or failed message. Okay. And then we keep going. This for registration, another one. What is the description? Let's see the description. Let's see. I'm not seeing any description here. Okay, for some reason, this one does not give us any description. Okay, maybe because we have not. Anyway, there's another one here for auth user that describes the and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is just a schema that you can, you know, give some command and some things will happen, but don't worry about it for now, but you just get a schema. Well, let's get the documentation, which is more important to us now. So for the documentation, there are two documentation we can use. The popular ones are Redoc, okay, and Swagger. So let's just look at them. This is Redoc. So what is this Redoc? So Redoc is for generating the open source API documentation tool. Okay, so this is what you can use to generate your API for your backend. Okay, you also have this other one, which is the Swagger. I think the Swagger is actually even more popular. And let me just go. Yeah, this is Swagger. So both of them are quite popular, right? And open source powered documentation. Okay. So this, as a backend developer, you have to be aware of this thing. Okay, because you need this for people to see how they're describing what you need to provide some endpoints and what you need to access the endpoint and what you will get. So the API will tell you the endpoints and what the endpoint will give to you. Okay, so this is now will give us the front end developers, for instance, an idea of, okay, this is what they're going to get if they visit this endpoint. Okay, so let's just add, yeah, we're going to add both of them, the Spectacular and the sorry, the Swagger and the Redoc. No, we're just going to see them so that you see the difference between both of them. So we're just going to go back to add them documentation. We need to come back here and import. Okay, for the spectacular redoc. Okay. Okay, let's just look. Oh, this is not redoc. Spectacular redoc view. Okay, this one. Okay, so once we have this particular redoc view, we are going to also just add again. All these things are just very similar. So the add path. I'm going to do API / schema / redoc. So what it does is that it takes this schema and translates to documentation that we can actually all see. That's what they do. Yeah, okay, so I'll do a / there. And then all I just need to do is to add a view function, which is spectacular redoc view dot as view. Okay. And then let's also give it a name redoc. Okay. Okay, so let's just do that here. Where is it? Probably here. So I'm just going to add API schema / redoc. And we have our documentation. So this is what people are going to see. So once you create your API, right, this is what they are going to see. Okay, you give them documentation. They will, okay, how do I use the API? Okay, these are the things I need to get. What can I do? Can I create user list? Okay, let's look at post, for instance, post create. So if you want to create a post, you need ID, you need author, you need title of the post and the body. Okay, so I see all this is automatically generated for us, right? We are not front-end developers at this point, right? But we can see all the things. They even give you example of how the things that you can expect to do. So it's the whole documentation, right? And to get it is quite easy. You can see it's a get request, post request. Yeah, you don't have to like start writing HTML and CSS to get these people to see this. So you can now see anybody that want to use your API can come to the documentation, but you can see how easy to just add documentation. Okay, let's quickly do for the Swagger API. Okay, so any API we're building, we're going to have documentation because again, front-end developers will have to come here to see how the API works. For instance, if I say, okay, I need to create a post on the front end, what do I need to create a post on the front end? Okay, so that they can provide the appropriate input field or form to fill. So for instance, now to create a post, let's look at users create. Let's say we want to create a user. So you have, okay, these are responses. So there are a whole lot of things happening here, but let's just give an example. Let's just take an example of how to create a user. Okay, this is for a post already. So this is for creating a post. You can say ID. Okay, no, this is like patching a post, basically making changes to an existing post. So there's a way this one is, which I don't like it too much, but okay, let's just look at it from the top. Okay, so what is this? This is to log in. Okay, remember our login uses both username and email. So to log in, you need to provide username and email. Okay, and what you will get is a key, which I show you guys that day, which is a token. If you log in, you're going to get a key, which is a token. Okay, the key is a token. Now, if you want to create a to log out, okay, this is logout create, but you don't really need to do much about that. But again, front end developer, they know how to read this thing as well. Yeah, so that they know what to do on the front end. But let's quickly just add Swagger UI, Swagger view. So just go back to the same process. That's why I said that once you grab this thing, the same process. So I want to add Swagger. But of course, you don't need both of them, right? You just need to choose one. So I'll just do. So it's either Swagger, like I said now, you have Swagger and redoc. directly, which you can use to create your API as a backend developer. So I'm just going to add a Swagger view so that I can use that. So again, I'm just going to repeat the same thing here. I'll say path API / schema / Swagger UI, because that's a so even if you are doing Node.js like that JavaScript on the back end, you still use these things, right? But of course, the way you are going to add them is going to be a bit different because this is Python, right? So you don't expect to add the same way you add it to JavaScript, Python in JavaScript. Okay, so you do spectacular UI, and then you call the view function spectacular view dot as view. Now this time with spectacular, we have to pass in URL name. Okay, so it's a bit different, but it's same view function anyway. So you do URL name equals, let's call it schema, and then you take the name feed and call it Swagger. Right. Okay, so that's basically it. So we've added Swagger. So if we don't like this documentation, which is Redoc, we can actually use the Swagger documentation, which you can get through schema / Swagger-UI. Oh, maybe something is wrong with our, say it says there's something like that. Schema. Oh, sorry, there's no v1. Sorry, so you can see now. You see, when you look at this error, don't panic. Yeah, we can just look at it and say, okay, maybe you see your mistake. See what I wrote here. I say API schema Swagger. Yeah, I don't put v1, so I just am going to remove the v1, and I should get the Swagger. Okay, so see this one. This one, I think this one. That's why this one is quite popular. It looks a bit more. I think I prefer it as well. Okay, so you can see all our endpoints listed. All the endpoints that we have for our project, they are all listed here. And so let's look at the one of post. So you can see two of these posts, and then you see this padlock here. It simply means that for you to be able to do something, you need to log in. Okay, so let's look at post get. So we can get a post, okay, by just basically visiting this UI, and then we'll get post. Okay, so this is an example of a post. We can also post a post, like the post here is the HTTP method, okay, which is to create. So to create a post, you need to provide author, title, and the body. Okay. And then once you create a post, you're going to get this as a result, the date of creation as well. Okay. So you can also get a single post if you put the ID. So you put the ID, which are all the things that we have been doing, right? So if I want to get a single post, let's go back to our API. Okay. Post list. So if I want to get a single post, all right, I just need to put one here and I get a single post. See? So that's what the documentation is saying. So we'll have documentation, which, see, we just very straightforward, right? We didn't need to do a lot of things. We didn't need to do a lot of things at all to get this document. So if you're talking about your back end, you just need to copy this URL or give front end guys this URL so they'll know what they expect from your API. Okay, so you must have this because you can't use, it's not word of mouth you're going to use to describe your API. They should have a place that you look, okay, this is the API you have built. This is what I can do. These are the data I can get from the API. And I can say this is version 1, or because we also put version, right? It's version 1. So if we change to version 2, maybe it's something different. Okay, so that's a quick one. Okay. This one, okay, so I can see token, register. Want to restart this, these are things you need to provide: username, password. Yeah. If you want user, create a user details. These are things you get for user details, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can see now all these things are just available for us. So it's authorized. Okay, so let's put in this and authorize it. Okay, so now that we have authorized it, so we've entered it, so we can actually let's see, users, get users. Okay, JSON, create user. So let's try it out. Okay, so that's one good thing about this. It's a try it out. So let's execute. And then you see, you see our user that we created. So it's even working directly inside it. Okay, we can actually try out what we have. It's already working inside. See our user, see how it works. So front-end developers will even be able to try out what so that they will see, okay, if I click on this, these are the kind of result I can get. Okay, because front-end developers are not going to be using Postman or using browser API and all of that, yeah. But once they just have access to this, yeah, API documentation, they will see the way data is being stored and what they will expect as the response. So they cannot take this response we are seeing here and place on the and put it on the web page nicely with HTML and CSS and stuff, and then it looks very nice. Okay, so that is that's documentation. So we've basically just gone through the basic aspect of API development. Okay, so basic aspect. So to go deeper, we just need to just learn more, add, do more, and pick a task. Okay, pick a task. So the task will be available to be picked, and then you don't have to even understand the task. Just decide to pick the task, and then you can start asking questions. Where do I start from? Where do I? Then you will now begin to even get a better idea of all these things we're doing. Okay. All right, so that's it for this. So thank you very much, guys. So if you have any question, please ask.
Me, I don't have, but I will still go through them again.
Yeah, so I will
Everything,
definitely make the videos available this weekend. So just
because
find some time and then make them available. Yeah. So yeah, so if you want to attend our meetings tomorrow, you can attend if you're available. Maybe time will change at some point, but for now, we're just doing it in the morning. If you
okay,
want
in
to
the
attend
morning.
our weekly meeting on Fridays, you can attend. We're building a
Which
project, and
what weekly meeting is that? Is it on the project?
yeah, so let me just I don't know whether you
I beg. I'm interested.